Well, the BRICS summit in Johannesburg is heading into its second day today, bringing together the leaders of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. A big theme of this year's summit is expanding the bloc of emerging economies that's working to be a counterweight to the dominance of the West around the world. Now, that's a position that was reaffirmed during the opening remarks on Tuesday, with China particularly throwing its weight behind expansion plans. To talk more about the BRICS summit now, we've got our chief foreign affairs editor, Rob Parsons, on the set. Rob, expansion is going to be a big issue this year. What countries do you think are most likely to join the club?
Well, I mean, you're right. Expansion is on the agenda. Whether it will lead to new members or not after this meeting, we don't know for sure yet. But certainly they're talking about it. The reason they're talking about it is undoubtedly the fact that BRICS, since its creation in 2009, is perceived at least, particularly in the global south, as having been successful. And particularly the creation of the new development bank and other institutions is creating alternatives to Western financial institutions. So that is the attraction. At the moment, it seems 23 countries so far have applied for membership, and 40 have expressed an interest. We don't know for sure which ones have applied, although there are a number that seem to be on the list, including, which will cause alarms, particularly in Washington, Iran, and Venezuela. But leaving aside those, there are some heavyweights in there as well who would like to join, including Saudi Arabia, who, if they were to join, will obviously add something substantial to BRICS. Its geostrategic position, its economic position in the world would obviously be very important. But also Ethiopia, one of the biggest economies in Africa, Algeria likewise, and Indonesia in Southeast Asia, another big player. If they were to join, that would make a big difference to BRICS. It would also change what BRICS is, and I think that is part of what the debate is at the moment, is trying to understand what direction they want BRICS to move in, what its new profile is going to be.
Because if this expansion were to happen, I imagine there will be some stumbling blocks. What might be some obstacles to expansion?
Well, there are quite a few, I think, but not least the fact that as I was just hinting at now, there's no clear understanding of what BRICS should be and what its future should be, how it should develop, what are the lines of development. There is fear, I think, on the part of some that China wants to turn BRICS into a vehicle for its own global ambitions. And bear in mind that these are the 5 countries that form BRICS at the moment are all very, very different, not just geographically, but also politically, economically, militarily. 2 military giants, Russia and China, and India increasingly becoming a military giant, but South Africa and Brazil far from it. And they all have different interests. The suspicion, particularly on the part of India, that China is using or may use BRICS for the furtherance of its ambitions, when India has its own ambitions. It was very interesting to hear Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister, talking about India at BRICS just yesterday, saying that India was the world's fastest growing economy and that it was going to be the driving force of the global economy. This is a man who clearly has serious ambitions for its country, now the most populous country in the world, having overtaken China. It doesn't want to take a back seat to China. But, South Africa, Brazil, and India are also very reluctant to allow BRICS to be turned into some sort of opposition to the West. These are countries that get a lot of their direct and foreign direct investment from the West. They don't want a clash. They don't want a restoration of the Cold War. So serious differences among them. How they resolve those differences will depend in large part, I think, on what I was hinting at just a moment ago, how they perceive the future of the organization.